Hi, John.
Hi, Sandy.
Welcome back to On Point for the second time. Just so everyone watching will know who you are, John Caldecott is the former Director of Human Resources for the Newport Mesa Unified School District, who was abruptly fired on January 27th, but was actually placed on leave January 22nd, right after filing a writ with the Orange County Superior Court judge asking to release the internal documents related to his complaint. This hearing concerning the release of documents is set for April 13th. Do you know where exactly in the court?
Yes, it's C-32 in the Central Justice Division.
Okay, what time?
It's 1:30 p.m.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe people will come out and just check it out.
It is open to the public as far as I know.
Okay, good. I'm going to be there.
Good.
Last night, John spoke before the Board of Education for the 3 minutes that he was allowed. So why don't you give us a brief background of what has occurred about the firing and tell us what you said last night and what you did not have time to tell.
Sure. The firing is, over.
Yeah.
I was as I told the board, I was a whistleblower from the inside, and that is incorporated in my complaint against the superintendent on many different documents. I wasn't successful as an internal whistleblower, and I am now blowing the whistle from the public point of view with the intent of holding the board and superintendent accountable for what goes on in the school district and for the issues I raised in good faith with the intent of resolving. People that know me know that I am a chronic problem solver and rescuer of situations. And I try very hard to do that. I was not successful. And that is because I was kept out of things. Things are secret. So I can go through, Sandy, if you want me to, the 4 or 5 things that I told the board that reveal more of the facts in the documents related to my complaint against the superintendent.
I would like that, and I'm sure anybody watching, since very few people were there last night, so I think there'll be a lot of people wanting to know what you said.
Great, and I will tell you, 3 minutes couldn't do it justice. It's only 2 pages, but I ran out of time. I was cut off by the board president, and eventually I was escorted by the security guard and told to leave the microphone, which I did.
What humiliating. A little bit,
it's humiliating. Right? I asked for a little more time, and I was not granted that. I don't think the board or the superintendent want this information out in the public, and that is part of it.
Well, let's put it out in the public.
Okay. One, I pointed out that there was no investigation, and more specifically, as I've said that before, I was informed that if there was no informal resolution, that the board's representative that was dealing with me in writing was authorized to, quote, in writing, retain an independent investigator to conduct an impartial investigation. Well, there was no informal resolution, and there was never an investigation as promised.
Was that promised in writing?
Yes.
Okay.
And I sort of waited patiently for that to happen, and it just somehow the process concluded. Number 2, I pointed out specifically the superintendent's new certificated management salary schedule and STRS reporting. Now, this is a very central issue that cropped up in many different ways, but what I pointed out is that because there was so much mystery surrounding the discussion about this certificated management salary schedule that was pushed by the superintendent, I started asking some very key, direct questions, which I am known to do, and actually so are you.
Yes.
But out of concern and good faith, I tried to find out what was being done and why. The quote I will read you that I read last night is from a top-level administrator with the full knowledge of the superintendent. So here's a statement that was again...
It was again in writing.
In writing.
Okay.
Quote, so John unless you'd like to personally collect a set of whistles, the blowing of which will hurt your colleagues, I'd suggest that what we're proposing to do fixes the problem prospectively, and that such a fix is wholly acceptable to STRS. Now, I'm going to break down that sentence to you because that brings...
Explain prospectively first.
Prospectively, obviously, whatever fix occurs, it goes into the future, leaving to question what about the past.
Right.
This is one sentence, but it is so complicated and so powerful, it gives me HR chills down my spine every time I read it. I'm being taunted to be a whistleblower, to correct a problem that is obviously known by some people. I didn't know what that problem was. I'm being discouraged to pursue the matter because of the impact it might have on my colleagues. Well, I don't want to hurt my colleagues. I don't want to do anything to hurt any employee. But that is not the basis for making decisions about STRS reporting. That is a very serious matter, and I'm surprised at this top-level administrator even suggesting that I could walk away from something that would be a financial obligation or a legal requirement in what the district does with pension money or pension reporting. I was not told, despite repeated questions, what problem is being referred to. Problem. If you listen to that sentence, there is acknowledgement that there is a problem. Tell me what it is. I'm the fixer.
And you had at that point no idea, or maybe at this point either, I don't know.
I was never told by the superintendent or this top-level administrator, to the point of my dismissal today, what that problem is. But I became very suspicious about the cynical nature in the way that I was treated. From that point on, and even prior to that, there is a thread of intimidation, fear, pressure, to the point of that I conducted my own investigation. And I did make queries to STRS. And as I mentioned before, I don't know that led to their audit of the district. But
it's currently being audited, correct?
There is currently an audit of the district by STRS. I did eventually call for a forensic audit, which would have been an internal audit to say, what is the problem? Let's find out. Because what is the backup, in the other part of the sentence, what is the backup for the prospective fix that is wholly acceptable to STRS? How do you know that? Have you asked them? Is there a regulation? Give me the laws. I'm used to having the laws, the legal references, the issues, either researched by HR or provided to HR so that we can help find a pathway that is legal and appropriate. So that sentence is something I wanted everyone to hear. But I will also say, I asked the board the question, can the board confirm that the superintendent has hired a consultant that I didn't see on a board agenda, who has developed a schedule and openly sought certificated management employees to recommend it because he did not want his name attached to it.
He being the
superintendent.
Right.
Any certificated management employee can confirm this. There have been open discussion, and there is behind-the-scenes discussion about this all over the district. But what is being pushed and why is still a question. Now, I didn't mention that quote goes back to May 28th of 2014.
That you asked the trustees.
That I was told that quote,
we were told. Okay.
that one sentence. I subsequently asked for forensic audits, and here this is still an issue today about what the problem is. And
when can I just ask you this? Might be kind of a dumb question, but when do you think the board actually was aware of this situation, that there was a problem?
When I started putting complaints in writing about the superintendent, there was reference to this sentence. I think it was in October of 2014.
Okay. A long time ago.
So, shall I proceed to number 3?
Please.
Discrepancies with recurring payments to an administrator for extra work days. Now, this is a certificated administrator, but there have been recurring payments of 20 plus extra work days, which, if you do the math, would take someone over a full-time job. What is unusual about this arrangement is that it is coordinated through the business office with provisions for COLA increases through the increase of the number of days. So, as you know, teachers got a 6% increase last year through the negotiations process. That was also applied to management and other employee groups. There is correspondence and evidence that I've provided that there was a calculation performed by the business office to increase the number of extra work days by the COLA. This is a perpetual arrangement that, given that COLA arrangement is highly irregular. I don't know.
Okay, for those people that understand or don't understand, that probably would include me. What does that actually mean? I mean, I understand the general idea, but what does that actually mean? So somebody that works 20 hours, right? And so everybody got a 6% raise. So what does that mean after that for that person that worked the extra 20 hours but maybe didn't?
Good question, because I tend to live in my HR world.
Yeah.
Let me help in vernacular an example. There are occasional times when an employee is asked to work some extra time, let's say 5 extra days, to perform this project for the district, because it's something that the district is willing to pay above and beyond your work year to do. As a teacher, as a classified employee, that occurs.
Right.
In this case, it's 20 extra work days, which is a pretty large amount for an administrator. I don't, frankly, know of any comparable amount of time. But then let's say that 5 days next year, we need that time, but we're going to say that everybody else got a 6% increase, so we're going to give you 6 extra days this year. Those COLA calculations don't enter into work days because that's based on extra work that's needed by the district. So that's one issue. The other issue is these types of arrangements are not coordinated through the business office. They are generated by the site, who might need approvals, but someone has a need for the work. That's what generates it. That's not what's going on here. This is an arrangement.
It's an arrangement. Obviously, it's an arrangement for more money for whoever this person this person is. But does it also? My question is, does it go on it goes on the retirement? So then that becomes a part of that person's ultimate retirement.
Well,
so I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish.
So they get it on both ends. They get the money, and then they get this put on the retirement. Is that the way that works?
Well, that is a question that I also will include in this area. How are things coded, to keep this simple for the public? There are complicated codings that occur in payroll, and depending on the form of compensation, it may be counted towards your retirement, and it may not be. I've questioned how these things were coded through the business office, because if they were miscoded as retirement compensation, as compensation that would count towards your retirement calculation, that would possibly inflate your retirement pay, which would be pension abuse. So I have raised the issue of suspected pension abuse. And that is something that is...
But we actually don't know the answer to that yet.
We don't know the answer because John doesn't decide whether pension abuse is occurring.
Yeah.
That is a STIRS question.
Right.
They ultimately have the legal responsibility